This is the filer information session for February 15th, specifically for designated filers, employees who file a Form 700 as required by the department under the San Francisco Campaign and Governmental Conduct Code. Today's agenda is going to go over conflicts of interest because as Form 700 filers, you are subject to a number of laws throughout the city. Then we're going to move to the meat of the presentation where we talk about an overview of the Form 700. We're going to talk about who files and when, how to file using NetFile because you must file electronically. We'll talk about what's reported. And then Elaine's going to take over on resources and filer support and emphasize the importance of please using our Form 700 portal for submitting questions. It helps you and us keep track of your questions. And then we'll have our Q&A session. All right, first up, conflicts of interest. This is laws that apply to designated filers. We're going to be talking about four main areas: behested payments, gifts and travel, conflicts of interest, and incompatible activities. These are all areas that apply to you as a Form 700 filer. I want to highlight an easier set of navigation tools that are on our website. First up, we're going to start with behested payments. On February 7th, regulations went into effect that further define and clarify laws that were placed on the books in January of 2022. Behested payments are when an officer or an employee has requested a contribution or a donation of someone outside of the city. And the reason that creates an ethical problem is when a government official asks for something of value from someone who has an interest in a decision that the official could make or influence, there can be a real or perceived conflict of interest. For example, if an employee asks someone to make a donation to their favorite charity, and the person that they're asking happens to be a contractor or someone who wants to enter into a contract with the city, that is going to create a conflict of interest, and that type of request would be prohibited. If you have questions about behested payments, please contact the Ethics Commission, as well as checking the information on our website. Decisions are fact-specific, and it's very important that we have a chance to talk with you about what the behested payment or possible behested payment is. Another section of the law that applies to you under the Campaign and Governmental Conduct Code are rules for gifts and travel. For those of you who are Form 700 filers, there is a limit from a gift from a single source of $520. Now remember, the annual Form 700 that you're filing now, due April 3rd of this year, the limit there is $520. If for some reason, and there may be a few of you, who are also filing a leaving office, remember that any gifts received during 2023 will have a higher gift limit of $590. If you have any questions, submit them through the portal. There are other gift laws that apply. There are restricted source rules for all employees, a $25 gift limit 4 times a year from an interested party. There are also gifts from subordinates that are generally prohibited. Now, you may hear people talking about a gift of travel that has to be reported. That would apply to elected officers. In addition, some of you may work for departments that have a statement of incompatible activities that imposes even stricter rules on gifts from your department's vendors or contractors. In addition to looking at the Form 700 gift rules, Be sure to look at your department statement of incompatible activities. Copies are available on your own department's website as well as the Ethics Commission's website. Notwithstanding the specific rules regarding gifts, it's not a great idea to accept gifts from an entity doing business with your department. But again, if you have any specific questions, contact the Ethics Commission. This is just a reminder that for information regarding gifts and conflict of interest rules, you can refer to the City Attorney's Good Government Guide available on their website and the Ethics Commission's and your department's statement of incompatible activities. Regarding incompatible activities, by April 1st of this year, the Ethics Commission will be distributing an annual reminder to department heads. It goes to department heads, city employees, and members of boards and commissions, and it has to be circulated and posted in public places and delivered to each employee individual. These statements are important. They are department specific, and they remind us that public office is a public trust and that all officers and employees of the city, we have to exercise our public duties in a manner consistent with this trust. Statements build on fundamental state and local laws, and they're designed to ensure that in conducting our governmental duties on behalf of the public, we act only in the best interest of the public and without regard to our own personal gain. Among the topics that you will see in your statement of incompatible activities are decisions involving family members, disclosure of personal, professional, or business relationships, gifts from restricted sources, gifts from subordinates. There may be prohibitions on dual office holding. There will also be information on compensated advocacy, which includes waivers for certain members of boards and commissions. You may run across that in your contact with your boards and commissions, but this is where the information is found. It's found on the statement of incompatible activities. Next, we're going to give you an overview of the Statement of Economic Interest, Form 700. So why are we talking about a Form 700? Why do we file it? So the Political Reform Act, it prohibits public officials from using their official position to influence a government decision in which they have a financial interest. So state and local agencies have to adopt a conflict of interest code. That's the biennial code review that we just finished. It identifies all officials and employees within the city and county of San Francisco who make governmental decisions based on the positions they hold. It's not a ranking, it's your job responsibilities. Individuals in designated positions, that's you all, must disclose their financial interests as specified by their positions disclosure category on a form called Form 700. We're going to talk about those disclosure categories later. The Conflict of Interest Code and the Form 700, they are fundamental tools in ensuring that public officials are acting in the public's best interest and not in our own. Annual statements of economic interest, Form 700s, are required to be filed by public officials and designated employees throughout California each spring, and within 30 days of assuming office or leaving office. The Form 700 is important because it provides transparency to the public, and it ensures accountability by us in two ways. So, as I mentioned, it provides that necessary information to the public about the officials, that's us, personal financial interest to ensure that officials are making decisions in the best interest of the public and not enhancing our own personal finances. That public disclosure, it's on the Ethics Commission's website. It also serves as a reminder to us of potential conflicts of interest so that we can abstain from making or participating in governmental decisions that are deemed conflicts of interest.
Who files the Form 700, right? So all elected city officials, all city department heads, all members of boards and commissions, so board members and commissioners. Now, these folks are not you, right? You are the second group here, the designated employees, or as we often say, designated filers, right? That's who this session is geared towards, designated filers such as yourselves. So again, the reason it's called designated employees is because the positions are identified or designated, right, in that conflict of interest code, and therefore required to e-file. Additionally, candidates running for city elective office, they're also required to file SCI or statement of economic interest statements with, the Department of Elections once they've declared their candidacy, but we're not focusing on that today. Just wanted to kind of point that out as an FYI. So the conflict of interest code review, right? So this is a biennial review. It means it happens every other year in even numbered years. It's conducted by the clerk of the Board of Supervisors, the Ethics Commission, and the City Attorney's Office. So like things like adding positions, removing positions, renaming positions, etc. This is a legislative process, and it's subject to approval by the Board of Supervisors. So it works like this. The review period is initiated by the Board of Supervisors, usually via like a memo or an email to department heads. Then any departments who want to make changes to their section of the code work directly with the city attorney's office. So then the amended ordinance, it gets drafted by the city attorney's office, it gets agendized, and then eventually adopted, by the Board of Supervisors. So the city's conflict of interest code's current amendment becomes operative March 11th of this year. So now we are going to talk about when do you file a Form 700? So here are the Form 700 filing requirements and due dates. So when you assume office, that means when you start your job or begin performing the duties of the position, that assuming office statement is due within 30 days of that start date. So an assuming office statement is a 1-year look back from your start date. You're also required to file annually. So this is the deadline that we're looking at right now, right? It's annual filing season. So the due date each year is April 1. So this annual filing covers the year before. It's just like filing taxes. In 2023, we're filing taxes for the year 2022, right? So now you see there's a little asterisk, and we'll look at exceptions. So if you assumed office near the end of the year, like October 1st or later, you don't have to file that next annual statement. I think the idea is that your assuming office already pretty much covered most of that year. The first part of the year, from January until April, you're not going to be filing an annual statement because you didn't work, the year before. So the second exception actually applies to this year. This year's true due date is actually April 3rd because April 1st deadline, that falls on a weekend. So let's take a look at how to e-file your Form 700. I'm going to switch tabs over here and just do a little demo on how to file. And what it does is just we start at the home page. Like Pat mentioned before, you can click on right here, get guidance. And then again, right at city officers and employees. On the right-hand side, you're going to see this little menu where it says Form 700. And again, it says Form 700 filers. So note that this page is a great page because it's got, a lot of information here. I like to use this link up here just because it's the closest. And then you're going to land on this Form 700 filers page. So if you take a look here, it kind of shows you this little breadcrumb trail, means you can also get to it from here, right? Like guidance, go to Form 700, which will take you to that right-hand menu again. I mean, you could even use our search up here and just type in Form 700 filers. But this is a very, very helpful page. It's a good one to bookmark. You'll notice there's announcements here. This is where you're going to have a link for when this recorded session goes up, so you can find that there. You'll scroll down a little bit and notice that right here is a link that says e-file Form 700. So when you click this, it's going to land you on the NetFile login page. So notice here, you can always like request a new password. There's a lost your password link right there as well. So super easy if you don't remember your password. So you'll enter your email address and your password. And I actually already have Pat's dashboard loaded up for us. So this is what your NetFile kind of dashboard looks like when you log in. So just take a quick notice right here where it says category 1. Pat's going to be discussing disclosure categories. This is where you can find information about that, and that's just going to open up a PDF when you click on that. So you'll see here that you have filings to complete. So when you're ready, go ahead and click select. If you happen to have more than one filing here, you can file at the same time. You're just going to check the box for both statements and then click Start Selected Document. If you've already started a document, maybe you went in already, you're not going to see this select box. You're going to see a little link here that says Edit or Delete, right? Because you'll have like a draft going. You'll be able to edit or delete that draft. But for now, since we haven't started, we would hit Select. So once you hit that Start button, and you see it's thinking up here. So what we're starting out here with is the filer information. This is your cover page, right? It says filer information. And then look at Pat's very good. She's got business contact information here, right? Not personal, because this is a public document. So once you start, this is a handy tip. So a lot of you may have actually already filed a Form 700 in NetFile. Now, if nothing has changed, you can just go ahead and click Review Draft in e-file, and it's going to like jump through right to the end. So you can just review it and then file it without having to go through all of the sections. Otherwise, you would just sort of like go through and at each point like save, just follow the instructions and clicking next at the bottom of each page. Now, if you say can't finish in one setting, that's not a problem. You just log out here. Right, and then you can go ahead and actually log back in, pick up right where you left off. So what we were saying about public information, your e-filed statements are always available to you when you're logged into your NetFile account, right? So you saw how like you have filings to complete. You also have a section that says completed filings. So you can access them, but remember that the Form 700 is a public document. That's why we use the business information. So they are available online with limited redactions. The search portal to find them is on our website. Statements without redactions are also available. Just request the Ethics Commission. So let me go ahead and show you now where you can actually find that search portal. So if you start on our homepage, what we're actually going to look for here is View Disclosures. And again, we want to go to Statement of Economic Interests. And right here, the first one is View Filed Statements. So once we go here, notice that this is actually like a NetFile search portal, right? Just kind of branded for our page, but we're basically on NetFile. So I want to give you some tips here if you're ever looking, you want to search for a statement. First of all, hover over this little I, the information, and it's going to tell you to enter a filer's first or last name, not both. It also reminds you that you can do partial searches. Like, you know, if you put in John, it's going to pull up everything with like Johnson and John. You can decide which statement type or just leave it at all. A big tip is that I always like to clear these date fields out and just leave them blank. So let's do a search just on my first name. And it looks like it didn't work, right? You have to scroll down to actually see the results. Amending a filed Form 700. Amendments can be made to current or prior year's filing, right? Like, let's say you filed your Form 700 and maybe you made a mistake, you forgot something. Amendments can be made at any time without penalty. They should be filed as soon as the discrepancy is known. So if it's ever like, well, when do I file the amendment? Just as soon as you know that there's a problem and the amendment is needed. Keep in mind, it's important to amend the relevant year's filing, right? So if you made a mistake on last year's filing, you're not going to amend this year's filing, or amend the last year, the one with the mistake. And then when you file an amendment, only that amended page is going to be like visible, right? Not the whole entire original filing again. So last, what if you don't file? Or if you file late, which no one here is going to do, right? So there is no provision in the law to extend Form 700 deadlines, except that whole falls on a weekend or holiday thing, that we talked about, and then it's due the following business day. Late fees of up to $10 a day, up to $100 for each filing. And non-filers can also be subject to disciplinary or enforcement actions with potential fines up to $5,000 per violation. So the lesson is file on time and comply with the law. Just a side note here, like being on sick leave or sabbatical or extended vacation or regular vacation or out of the office, out of the country, or I forgot about it, or my internet is not working. None of these are exceptions. There is no exceptions at all. So again, just the lesson is to file on time.
Now we're going to talk about what's actually reported. First, we're going to review once again why your disclosure category is so important. And the fact that we're mentioning this several times is indicative of how important it is, because your disclosure category may only require disclosure of specific investments. What is disclosed by your particular position is set by your department, and it's based on your influence in government decisions on which you can personally benefit. For example, some departments limit disclosures only to business dealings or business positions held in businesses that provide the type of services that are used by your department. If you have a bookstore on the side, it's not disclosable. Please review your disclosure category. It's highlighted on your dashboard when you log in to NetFile. This is an image that Elaine demonstrated. This is my particular dashboard, but at the very top, it has the fact that I am disclosure category 1. And if I want a definition of what that entails, I click on that link and a PDF will open up. Now let's talk about the components of the Form 700. Many of you may not have an asset to disclose on one of the schedules. Remember, Elaine pointed out in the upper right-hand corner of your filing, you can skip past any schedules that you don't have anything to report on or any change to be made. If you have disclosed something previously, you can skip directly to the end and review, draft, and e-file. When you open up your NetFile account, it's going to have a series of screens. It's going to open to the cover page with information about your contact information and your position. That information was entered by your department. You can trust that it's correct. You will then be able to click through each of the following schedules or skip them by clicking Review, Draft, and e-file on the navigation bar on the upper right-hand corner of your screen from within your account. The schedules begin with certain types of investments. Investments in which you own less than 10%, and these are investments in stocks, bonds, and other interests, or investments, for example, in a business entity where you own more than 10%. Schedule B is for interest in real property. By the way, you need not report your domicile. There's a section for Schedule C types of income for loans and business positions, gifts, and lastly, gifts of travel payments, advances, and reimbursements. Let's go into each one of these a little bit more. On the cover page, again, this is your contact information. It shows up in section 5. It has been entered by your department. Now, reminder, the Form 700 is available to the public. When it was on paper, anybody could walk into your department and see an unredacted version by requesting it. Now that the Form 700 is available online, some information is redacted. Your telephone, your address, and your telephone number. However, upon request, any member of the public can get an unredacted version, so it's important not to put that public information or that private information out there. Filing a Form 700 electronically means that you sign it electronically. Once it's signed electronically, it will be visible on our disclosures page that Elaine just demonstrated. When you're thinking about Schedule A1, the first of the schedules, this is where you have investments where you own less than 10% of the entity. You'll be reporting investments worth more than $2,000, and these are stocks or bonds chosen by you. For example, if you have an item in a trust and it is reportable, you would report it only if that particular investment is worth $2,000 or more and doing business in the city or county of San Francisco, and you do not report the entire trust. Stocks and bonds are reported if they are chosen by you as distinct from mutual funds, diversified investments with investment decisions made by another individual. Report stocks and bonds that you control, mutual funds are not. And by the way, the Form 700 guide that is available online, and there is also pull down information in NetFile, it is just the tip of the various laws and regulations that control what you have to report. If you have specific questions, and we cannot answer hypotheticals, but if you have specific questions about whether or not something should be disclosed, we can provide informal advice if you submit your request through the Ethics Commission's support portal. Schedule A2 is the type of investment where you own more than 10%. You're typically a business owner. You'll report income from any client that was a source of $10,000 or more, and you'll report trusts, including living trusts, if they contain a reportable asset. For example, if a trust is located outside the city and county of San Francisco, it's reportable if it holds assets that are located in or doing business in the city and county of San Francisco. In contrast, a trust that contains only your personal residence or your savings account or some municipal bonds, that's not reportable. When you are thinking about property and whether or not to report it, if it's located in the city and county of San Francisco, remember that it includes a 2-mile radius of properties that the city owns. So the closest example would be the San Francisco airport. If you happen to own a piece of property within 2 miles of the airport boundaries, you will be reporting that. Again, these are specifics that are available in the reference guides, the Form 700 guide, and upon request for informal advice from the Ethics Commission. This is just an introduction if you will, or an overview to each of these schedules. Schedule B, interest in real property. You're going to report interest worth $2,000 or more. That could be a bicycle parking space in San Francisco, in the city. Reporting interest in real property within the city boundaries, exclude your personal home. However, if you have rental income from property, including your personal home, or if you are reporting a portion of it as a business, you would report just that portion. If you have a rental property, tenants' names are reported and they are not redacted. These are tenants who provide you with $10,000 or more in income in the reporting period, which is calendar year 2022. Please do not report personal mortgages if they are at rates that are generally available to the general public. Schedule C, do report income, loans, and business positions if your income is $500 or more. That includes nonprofits. And remember to report income from the sale of property if it's to someone in the city and county of San Francisco. That includes home, car, or bicycle. You don't have to report governmental salary. That information is available on other sites. And you don't have to report your business ownership as employment because you will have reported that on Schedule A2 in an entity where you own more than 10%. That information is available on the guide. When you look at the instructions, it will call out that information. Gifts. Remember, you may be subject to gift restrictions within your departmental statement of incompatible activities. Be sure to look. As a Form 700 filer, you will also have to report gifts with a cumulative value of $50 or more and a gift limit from a single source of $520 if you're reporting gifts from calendar year 2022, or $590 if you're reporting any gifts received in 2023. There are exceptions. There are many exceptions. These are just two. Gifts from family members, they don't have to be reported. If you attend a conference, a gift of informational material, and that can include conference admission, is not reportable. If other people are receiving it and you are not being singled out, it's an exception. Again, there are many rules and regulations regarding these fact patterns. Please submit any specific questions through the Ethics Commission's portal. We're almost there at the end. Gifts of travel, payments and advances. You don't have to report a gift from a family member. And if you're traveling for the city and you're doing your official duties, you're carrying them out, you do not have to report gifts on Schedule E. Here's your general reminders. When you're filling out your annual Form 700 and you're submitting it by April 3rd of this year, because April 1st, the normal date falls on a weekend, so it bumps to the next business day. When you are reporting assets held last calendar year, January 1 through December 31, 2022. Remember, please check your disclosure category before you report. Please do not over-report anything that is not required of you. And do keep in mind that your own assets, as well as those of your spouse or partner and your dependent children, are also reportable. Elaine is going to discuss filer support and resources for you.
Thanks, Pat. Okay, so let's go over where you can find the kind of like help and resources for filing your Form 700. Okay, so for filer assistance, you've got your filing officer for their department. There's a list of filing officers on our website if you're not sure who your filing officer is. But we have also just our website. We kind of displayed a little bit. We've gone through that. I'm going to demo a little bit more of that. And also our support portal. I'm going to show you where you can find that as well. The Fair Political Practices Commission, that's sort of like the state level, the FPPC. You can always give them a ring. And also, every department has a deputy city attorney, that's assigned to that particular department. So they're also a really good resource. Online resources, again, our website, sfethics.org, and the Fair Political Practices website. It's just, you can just Google the, FPPC California, and that will come up. So thank you very much. Let me go ahead actually now and sort of demonstrate to you again how to locate some of these resources. So again, once you start on our page, let's go this time. We'll go to guidance, go to Form 700, Statement of Economic Interests. This is a great page. It kind of gives you a little bit of overview of the law, these little accordions about, the conflict of interest code. This is stuff that Pat was discussing. It also goes over your filing requirements and, failure to file. So if you look here, you're going to see this information right here for Form 700 filers. It's the same link as we saw before up in the corner. So we looked here about how to file. It even has like, a link to the request a new password. But if you scroll down, there's a bunch of links to really good like resources here. So again, that's the Form 700 page we just looked at. There's some net file guides. You can also find these like while you're logged into NetFile. But what I always find really helpful are these right here. There's like a reference pamphlet and like an FAQ that you can look through. This is a link to the actual like PDF version of the Form 700. This is just for reference purposes, right? It is not, because we don't do paper filings anymore, but this is going to take you to the FPPC site, the Form 700's right on top. And it's going to open up a PDF right there to show you. So as you can see, each schedule comes with all of these instructions, and they're pretty easy to understand, and they're really detailed. So if you have, as you go through these schedules, which you can kind of think of different categories of interests, you can look through these instructions. I honestly, I know it seems like it's a little overwhelming. I tend to do like a Control F and kind of hunt for keywords that I'm looking for. And that tends to kind of get you to the information that you're looking for. That's kind of the same thing that I do with these reference packets and the Form 700s, right? So this information is here. There's a lot of really good like definitions about like, well, what is a trust, right? And it has a lot of good like examples, right? So it'll say like they are as an employee, et cetera, et cetera. So I find these to be really, really helpful resources when I'm looking up disclosure questions. Again, these are those links to the Conflict of Interest Code, the Good Government Guide, and support. Right here is a link to that directory on our website that says who, to find out your department's filing officer. It has like their name and email. And then we really, really want to encourage folks to use the support portal. This is dedicated just for Form 700. We kind of have like different categories, like y'all are Form 700 filers. We often have a filing officer session as well, but filing officers have their own set of questions. So once you kind of like jump in here, you'll be able to move through here. And once you kind of start typing things, it usually is going to give you, like it's going to suggest some articles, right, from our knowledge base. So there's a lot of really good information here, but submitting stuff through the portal is the best way to submit information because it doesn't get lost or buried in emails, and it usually gets answered a lot quicker. We usually get there in like a couple business days. Thank you very much for being here and spending your time with us during this presentation. We are going to open it up to a Q&A.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to us through the support portal. And happy filing.